Following the controversial documentary by BBC on the founder of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, Pastor T.B. Joshua, a pastor in the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Debo Akinyemi, in a write-up published by Church Times Nigeria, shares his experience when he worked for the late pastor. Well, thank you very much for keeping pace with us. This is Serious Matters here at ONF TV. Please do share videos, drop your comment, make them simple and simple. Well, the BBC reports seem to have exhumed, so many other reports. There have been controversial reports, ranging from a young lady coming up to say she was TB Joshua's daughter and she was maltreated and this and that, several reactions, up to actors coming up, Nollywood actors defending the late pastor and all of that. And then here we have a pastor in the Redeemed Christian Church of God sharing his experience with respect to, the late pastor. Well, you are free to drop a comment, make them simple and civil. There have been several reports, there have been several reactions, there have been several comments, but though the principle, I would say, when you juggle the comments together, the one that you find more weight there is when people began to say, look, this is belated. Why didn't you say this? Why were these reports not brought up, when the man was alive? Why is it now that he is dead that that you are now coming up with this report? Well, having related closely, though for a short while, the pastor said, with TB Joshua, as a journalist, I feel a compelling need to weigh in on the controversies trailing, the recent exposed release on him by the BBC. Well, the argument in favor and against the BBC documentary shows that opinions is divided as to whether whether he was a genuine man of God or not. Well, let me submit that from my personal view, he was neither here nor there. That means he could neither say whether he was a man of God or not. Well, it was difficult to place him because of his almost perfect outward posturing and inner suspicious conduct. That means he had two faces. There was the inner face, and there was the face that people see outside, especially the one that you see on TV that everybody sees. That's the outward posturing. We said those who judge TB Joshua by his looks and humility fail to draw from the biblical saying that outward appearance could be deceptive. Well, these are just pointers to, who the man really was. Well, he said, I first set my eyes on him in the late 90s when he was still in an itinerant with garments, white garment prophet. He used to visit to this choice, the sell magazines where I worked as the sports editor. He points men then where our editor Osa Irabo and news editor Jide Oshokoya, the purpose of his frequent visit was to curry publicity for the small things he was doing then as an oncoming church owner. But later our paths crossed again, and this time he had become a big brand. And even if controversial, one of my friends had informed me of a vacancy in the exclusive, quaint weekly newspaper he was publishing. Initially, I didn't know TB Joshua had anything to do with the paper because his name never appeared in the list of management and board of directors or members. But when I discovered that he not only owned the paper but also almost a choke owed on the management of the paper, I became scared and wanted to turn down the appointment given to me as the deputy editor of the paper. I had to go and seek counsel from my provincial pastor, who encouraged me to take up the appointment and do my job as much as much professionalism, detachment as possible. It did not take long after joining the paper when I began to notice very disturbing developments. Well, he said TB Joshua was nocturnal. He said, I noticed TB Joshua was a man of the night. He would summon us, the senior editorial staffs, to his church for meetings fixed for 6 p.m. but would never show up until about 1 a.m. the following morning. And when he eventually shows up, he said the meeting will eventually last for maybe about 10 minutes. And they've been waiting since about 5 p.m. So when he eventually shows up at 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. at night, then the meeting would only last for about 10 minutes at most. He said, but while keeping us waiting, he would feed the team to bursting. The sumptuous meal, many times jollof and fried rice, he fed them. But this pastor said then, he managed to have this Daniel mentality that, well, he will not get carried away by the king's meal. And so he didn't eat this meal. So he will pass it on to his friend, to he said, so the man of God always wanted them to sleep over. He said, but he will always insist that he wants to go home. And then the man of God will never stop him from not going home. In fact, he said at one point, at a time, he directed the driver of his security backup vehicle to drop him in front of his house in Ota by 3 a.m. So those who stayed back chose to do so. It wasn't that that he forced them to stay back. Well, he also mentioned that TB Joshua, this is the number two thing. Number one is that he was notorious. In other words, he was a night crawler. He was somebody who did most of his things in the night. Well, there's this saying, there's this saying that though he didn't say that he goes around at night, but within, he does most of his things at night. Number two is that he was generous with funds. One thing I could not avoid was the bulky envelopes filled with money that he always handed out to us at each meeting. And the interesting thing was that the meetings could be now and tomorrow and day after tomorrow, and as in he could call for them today, call for them tomorrow, but nobody knew what all those meetings were for, because at the end of the day, he would just say one thing, that he was wondering, why did you actually call for a meeting? That kind of this thing could have been sent to us by text message and all of that. Well, that's it. He was so generous with finances. He was so generous with money. And also, his disciples lived a regulated life. And what that means is that they control everything that they do as disciples. They don't do anything outside the order given to them by him. And I understand he could be very, very strict. He's a very, 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 very strict. Very, very strict. I understand that those disciples don't even go as far as outside, but they dress very well. In fact, I said one of them who tried to leave, he said it didn't take long before the guy started behaving like he was mad or something. So a lot of thoughts just keep coming to mind. Well, issues with married people, this is another point. He made married couples swap partners among themselves. In other words, this man goes there with his wife, this other person comes with his wife, so he says this person's wife should go and meet that person, and then they do their business. This person's husband should go and meet this person's wife. And so at the end of the day, people change course, change family. So you go there with one woman, you come back with another. He said he made this happen as a ritual to enable childless couples to have children. Strangely, many couples who could not have children would start having children with new partners with whom they had just been matched. In other words, formerly married husbands and wives saw their former partners coming to church in the arms of new spouses. Well, I don't know how come these things were concealed while he was alive. Why were these things not talked about? And do we still have these things happening? Well, As I began to round up, he said, though TB Joshua looked meek, he was known for his demonic anger, which the insiders witnessed almost daily. He was known for his demonic anger. Somebody said, he said, I was then told by one of the so-called disciples helping him to manage the newspaper how he threw up a large glass toppled table in his office in a fit of strange anger. In a fit of strange anger. He appeared very meek, but then had, anger issues. Well, let me just leave the platform for you. I would have really loved to, to take one or two of these comments, but then I want us to drop our own comments and then let us know what you feel about this particular issues. Well, this is still Serious Matters here at ONF TV. Please do share videos, drop your comment, make them simple and simple. Thank you very much for watching. God bless you. Don't forget to share videos. Bye bye.